Good morning, fish keepers. It's Friday. Let's get happy. All right. I hope we're all well. As I just said, it's Friday and I'm happy. Got a coffee. Let's celebrate. That is a good coffee, as per always. All right. So we've got a little bit of admin to get through today. Nothing too major. And then once we've got through the admin, we're going to jump over and have a quick chat to John. And we're going to be talking about ram cichlids, which is quite a popular topic. A lot of people really like them. So I thought let's have a good chat about that. But before we go into that, let's talk about some admin stuff, because everyone loves admin. First of all, if you have been buying some snails from us recently, you'll notice that they're coming in this, a cardboard box. So previous to this, we were using a plastic clamshell type of box. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, the supplier that I was getting them from don't sell them anymore, and they only do these cardboard boxes. So there's lots of positives and there's lots of negatives to this. Positives is they're completely recyclable or compostable. So, we're doing good things for the environment compared to the plastic, which wasn't at all. Negative is that water and cardboard don't mix that much well, and they get a bit of a soggy bottom if the bag doesn't get sealed properly. So there's positives and negatives. Positive, these things are huge, absolutely huge compared to what the other ones were, so we can get a lot more snails into one box. And they fit very snugly inside the cardboard box that we send everything with. So that's also a positive. Negative for me is that they cost a hell of a lot more than what the plastic containers were, by about nearly $1. So massive amount of cost in this compared to what the plastic ones were. So with that being said, I'm having to work out whether or not we're going to begin charging shipping for snails, just because the freight cost and the packaging cost is astronomical, and essentially I was making very little money on them prior to that, and I'm making absolutely no money when I'm having to send them in these. So obviously running a business, we need to make money. That's kind of part and parcel of running a business, so we might have to look at charging for snail freight, unfortunately, very soon. But that's something I'm sort of playing around with to see if I can work out another way of doing it. If not, it is what it is, unfortunately. I am sorry. Good morning, Stacey. How are you? Right, that's off the list. One of my suppliers sent me a sample of some plants that they sell. This is called a Japanese iris. I've had a quick Google, and they're absolutely beautiful. So there's a pond plant, so they're a marginal plant. We don't have a lot of marginal plants, so I'm going to absolutely add this to the website. They are stunning, beautiful flowers. So I'm pretty excited to have something new in the range when it comes to marginal plants. Look at that purple on it. It's honestly, I thought it was beautiful when I took it out of the bag, and then I actually looked at the photos on Google and some of the plants with the flowers and stuff. It blew me away how nice this plant was. So we'll be adding these to the list of marginal plants we have available. So it's a Japanese iris. So hopefully I get that done today. So if you're looking for some marginal plants, that was definitely one I believe that you should be looking into, because it's absolutely stunning. Hi Paul, how are you doing, mate? You well? Right, so some very important things that people are pretty excited to hear about is that our fish will be ready for sale on the website this week. So not all of them, but we have put through most of them through a couple of weeks. G'day, Brian. Through a couple of weeks holding period. They're feeding well and everything else, so there'll be a bunch of fish that we'll be able to make available as of hopefully tomorrow morning. So if you're in local to Nelson, you can come into the shop. They're not in the tanks at the front yet because that's not set up yet, but we do have them out the back. So there'll be about 10 different species available, and in another week's time there'll be another half a dozen species available, and another week's time there'll be another half a dozen. So we'll be beginning to roll out having our fish available for everybody. So they'll be for sale on the website and for sale on TradeMe, and we'll be offering shipping to that for anyone New Zealand wide. So we've costed that into $30 for overnight freight for anybody in New Zealand, South Island, North Island. It's obviously going to be a polystyrene bin with a heat pack and plastic bags and all that kind of stuff. So it's as cheap as we can make the freight, unfortunately. I'd like to make it a little bit cheaper, but it is what it is. We just have to keep it at that price. Hi, Kim. How are you? So that's where we're at with that. So as I previously said before, we do a few things with our fish when we get them. So once I get them in from the wholesale, we keep them at the back for a couple of weeks. And in that 2-week period, we are making sure they're all feeding properly. We're feeding them good quality foods, a lot of live foods, lots of rapashi, lots of frozen foods, and some high quality prepared pellets and prepared flakes. So we're really trying to get some nice colour into them and get them a nice chunky size. So the product that you're getting is really high quality fish. Hi Alison, how are you? Good morning everybody. On top of that, we're also doing a potassium permanganate dip when they first get in for a bath, just in case there's anything on them, just to knock that off, as well as doing a flubendazole treatment first time round as well. If we do notice any issues with the fish, we won't be selling them. I'm not letting anything go until they're absolutely healthy and in good condition. I might miss the odd one here or there because that might happen, but the goal is to make sure everything that goes into the potential sales floor is at 100% full health, nice and plump, nice and healthy, and nice and colourful. So the people that are buying them, you, the consumer, are getting a nice, healthy fish. That's the goal, is to be giving the best possible fish out that people can get. So that's what we're doing here at the fish room as far as the fish goes. Yes, the morning caffeine fix. So all going to plan. Your fish will be nice, healthy, and plump. And saying that, when you do get them, it's still strongly suggested to give them a couple of weeks in a hospital or a quarantine tank just in case something happens. Just that's the best form of prevention is just hold out prior to buying them, so prior to putting them into your display tanks or whatever. So we're going to do the best that we can to produce or give you the most healthiest possible fish you can, but just please take that into account. When you do get some fish, give it a couple of weeks if you can do that as well. So that's where we're at with the fish. So it should be available for sale on Trade Me and on the website by tomorrow morning, as well as you can walk into the shop and get them. Not all of the species will be available we've got here, but there'll be some. All the tanks at the back are full, but they're not all quite ready to go. The rack here we've got beside me, I've got all the plumbing set up, and hopefully the pump arrives today so we can get this set up and going over the weekend. And then once that's cycled through, bring the fish forward, get some more fish going on. So we're sort of beginning that process, but we couldn't hold out too much longer because there's a lot of people that are ready to cheap awesome fish. So they are pretty much here tomorrow, so that's exciting times. I'd like to announce that we have our winner of our review for the month, for last month. That's Amy Rowe, and she did a Facebook review, so thank you very much, Amy. If you would like to give us a message, we'll get you that $25 fish room voucher all sorted for you. If you'd like to enter the chance to win a $25 voucher, all you have to do is give us a review on either Google, Facebook, or any of the products that you purchase, and then you're in the draw each month for a $25 fish room voucher. It's nice and simple. Plant orders this week took me 3 entire days: Tuesday night, Wednesday, and pretty much all of Thursday to get them out the door. This week was a giant week of plants, easily the biggest that I've ever had to deal with. So I needed plenty of coffee. So thank you everybody who bought plants. It's greatly appreciated. Sorry for a couple that would have been delayed. Won't be getting their plants until today. I tried to get as much out as quick as I could, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. There are some very nice plants beginning to come in. Spring as well and truly sprung upon us. So there are some absolutely gorgeous plants coming in. I showed the photo of the rotala in the pots a couple of days ago. Stunning. The red pine came in a couple of weeks ago. Still looking absolutely amazing. Good morning, Jackie. Cardamom in the pots is really, really full, growing really, really well. I'm also just looking at what I've got here. Zealandia is looking phenomenal as well. And we've still got a few rose swords available, and they're perking up really nicely as well. So there's some nice plants coming through, definitely in the potted varieties, so giving them a nudge. And as Stacey has just alluded to, Fish Wars is coming back, so we're only a few days away for that. Crack into that. Hopefully, I believe we'll get the voting underway for that in a couple of days' time, which I'm pretty excited about. That's absolutely my favourite part of the year when we crack into Fish Wars. So if you haven't been here, it's basically a battle royale of all the coolest fish in the world that we can get in New Zealand. You get to have a vote on which one that you want to win. If the fish that you vote for wins, you're in the chance to winning yourself a $100 Sarah gift pack. So thank you very much to Sarah for getting involved in that again this year. It's like 2 years in a row, so we're very excited about that. So thank you very much. So the fish battle, like a sort of round robin competition, comes to the one, and whatever wins, you guys vote for. And so yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. So excited I can't quite explain it properly, but we're all good to go. So yeah, that's coming out very soon. Now I've knocked through the admin, which is far longer than what I was hoping it was going to take. I'm going to chop the screen over here. We're going to have John come on in, and we're going to have our conversation about some rams. Good morning, John, or good evening. How are you?
I'm not too bad myself. How are you, Tom?
Very good. All right, so I need some coffee. Hey, did you know that we sell these on the website? We do. Anyway. So, all right, today we're going to have a quick chat about ram cichlids. So, first and foremost, I just want to know a little bit of the history of them, a bit of knowledge about them. Obviously, we're talking about the fish that is right above your head right now. It's stunning in that painting. Yep. So, what can you tell us about the rams?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of strange goings on with the name. It's now called the Microgeophagus ramirezi. Okay, the ramirezi part has always been, and they decided to call it ramirezi because I can't remember the names of the guy, but when they first caught the fish back in 1948, there was one man who maintained this particular strain in captivity, but in the aquarium trade, and he maintained that, and the ramirezi name was given in his honour. I'm not sure if it was his name or if it was his company. I'm not 100% sure.
Was his last name, I believe.
Yeah, but the actual debate about the name has went on since 1957. It was first called an Apistogramma ramirezi, but then it was described as a Microgeophagus ramirezi by Axelrod, I think it was, in 1957. It stayed like that until 1971. It was made official, Microgeophagus ramirezi, but it was rejected in 1977, and then it was changed completely to Papiliochromis ramirezi.
Right.
Yeah, totally different. And that was generally accepted until 1982. And then they concluded that because Microgeophagus was the oldest described name, that it should be the official, last standing name. And that was fine, but it continued on until 2011. Going back and forth, people were still using the various names in printed literature and stuff. But the official stance was, and this was in 2011, that Apistogramma and the Papiliochromis were names that derived from the aquarium trade instead of the scientific community.
Right.
So as of 2011, it is Microgeophagus ramirezi.
Right, okay.
You will still see it getting called the other names in some of the older books that kick about, but moving forward, it's always going to be the Microgeophagus. So, yeah, it's quite a strange battle. Normally, you get a bit of debate, but this seems to have been quite the debate for a lot of years. So
yeah. I think for countries like New Zealand, they've got quite strict border controls and stuff like that. A name change like that would probably be quite devastating for our population, to get them in and out and stuff like that. So hopefully they don't change it again to anything drastic, because we may struggle to get them in if that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so what experience have you had with keeping rams?
Well, it's a cichlid that my dad had when I was younger. He bred them. I really liked the shape of them. At the time, other small cichlids were kind of elongated, and these ones are rounder, and I was fascinated by them. I've kept them myself several times throughout the years. I've had them in community tanks with all sorts of fish. I've had them in species tanks. I've had them most recently I've got them in a biotop. And I've had them in all different kinds of settings. I've even bred them a couple of times as well. So,
okay, cool.
One of my favourites.
So when you said you've had them in a community tank, what are the fish have you had them with? You kind of just a general community, or more specific communities, or?
Right. Well, two types. I've had them in, your standard where you've got your angelfish. I had a pair of rams. I had neon tetras, and a couple of other kind of tetras. A pleco. The general non-specific, all South American cichlids and that kind of thing. But I've also had them in more kind of species tolerant, if you want to call it that, set up where I've had the rams themselves. I've had autosynclus. I've had cardinal tetras. That was it in that tank. And what I've got them in just now is ruminose tetras and them, and that's it.
Yeah.
So,
I say them with ruminose or cardinals and autosynclus sounds like a really nice feeling aquarium. Just the way it's got me thinking way a little bit here now myself. So
yeah. Well, you find one of the characteristics of the rams is that they have the ability to just remain perfectly still when they're hunting.
Right.
And they do this thing that they're not very they're not constantly active. So to have a fish like ruminose tetra or cardinals or even ember tetras or anything like that are always on the move, it kind of balances that out where you've got these beautiful, colourful fish not doing much, and then you've got the movement above them. So it works well.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So as far as tank setup goes, you've said you've got them in a bit of a biotype at the moment. What other kind of ways have you had them? Is there any specific requirements that you've found that they prefer or don't like or anything like that?
Right. The warmer water definitely works best for them.
Yeah.
The temperature range is anything between 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, but I like to keep them at 29 degrees. I've had them at a steady 27 in the past, but for breeding purposes, they tend to, well, if you think about it, they breed in the wild when it's the rainy season and it's moving from the migrate from one area to another with the water. So if you can kind of mimic that warmer temperature, it really does make a difference. Another thing also is, I think when you're coming down to like your water perimeters and conditions, stability is more important than anything else. So, if you've got a temperature and it's fluctuating up and down, that'll stress the fish out. If you have, your pH level that's going up and down, that's going to cause problems. So if you have, even if it's down as low as 25 degrees and the pH as low as 4.5 or 4.6, or everything on the lower end of the scales, if you can maintain that, you're not going to have any problems. But if you have it going up and down, and that's when your fish gets stressed out, and you end up with a sick fish.
What about the likes of decor? Are they more prone to like rock work, woodwork, leaves, plants, no plants? Are they picky on that kind of thing? Your terracotta pot's going to do the job, or how have you found that with them?
Well, I don't think they're picky on the plants, but they definitely prefer a tank with plants. I think the way they like to hunt for their food is they swim at an angle, much like the one in that that picture there. They're kind of angled down. So if you've got grass-like plants at the bottom, they go in between that, and a sandy substrate's good as well, because what I've noticed on the fish I've got just now is they build small ditches, and apparently that's something that they do in the wild as well. When it comes to like egg laying, they do like a smooth surface. But that can be wood, it can be a river stone, or again a terracotta pot would probably do the same job, but they're not cave egg layers, so anything that's on the substrate creating a smooth surface.
Right. It's interesting that they're not cave layers. A lot of dwarf cichlids are sort of keen on getting into a cave and squeezing themselves in and not sort of letting anything else in and around. It's interesting. As far as feeding goes, have you found that there's any specific that they do better on or worse on? What have you fed them on? What have you found their diet is primarily gives them the best colours and the best vibrancy?
Well, I feed them, right now I'm feeding them two kinds of fish. I'm using a krill flake and an earthworm pellet.
Okay.
So obviously both of them are high in protein. I find the earthworm pellet is great for giving them energy and keeping them healthy and plump and everything they should be. But the krill flake really works well with the colours. It brings the red out on them, and oranges as well comes right out. So as far as live foods go, bloodworm, they're not too fussy in that respect. Daphnia, anything like that. They even eat, tiny river shrimp. So if you guys you won't get them over there, but they're just like glass shrimp or ghost shrimp. They're tiny, and if you can have them really, really small, I mean the rams are quite small, but if you get shrimplets, they'll hunt them as well. So
yeah, I think my memory serves me right. The best results I've ever had with them was when I was feeding them out on white worms quite regularly. When I say regular, I don't mean like 3 times a day, but once or twice a week. They really got some colour on them, some good quality size, and they were primed and ready to spawn on a regular basis. I do personally think that good quality live foods really do help rams in particular to boost their immunity and get them really barred up, for lack of a better terms. That would, like I said earlier, bit of extra warm water and the high quality live foods really goes a long way for ram cichlids in my experience, and that's kind of what you're.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Especially if you've got one of the live. It's not uncommon to be able to get your hands on wild caught rams, and live food's a must when you've got the live caught. I keep saying live, wild caught ones.
Yeah, you'd hope they're alive if you get your hands on them.
Yeah, you do need them live as well.
I'm not sure about over here if we get wild caught ones or if they're captive raised one. I'll have to have a wee chat to one of the importers and see what they are. I would suspect that we're getting captive raised. That would be my first thought, but I could be, of course, wrong. I know relatively well that they're a little bit susceptible to poor water conditions, in particular high nitrates. Is that your experience with them as well? Do they need like pristine top of the line water conditions, or can you be a little bit lackluster, or what's your experience been with the water conditions and keeping rams?
Well, I went through a phase. I'm not one of the kind of fish keepers that cleans their tanks, twice a week or every single week. I do like to keep a tank healthy and clean, but I don't see an issue in letting it go a couple of weeks if everything seems to be working, and I don't tend to keep my hands out of the tank as much as I can. And I've never come across it through all my 20 odd years of keeping fish. I've never had any issues with rams falling susceptible to poor water conditions.
Okay.
I don't know if that's to do with the local water supply here. We've got really soft water, or if it's just the conditioners that I use, or the bacteria that I add. I'm not sure, but I've always found them quite happy and robust.
So is that respectable for wild caught ones as well as captive bred ones, or have you found wild
caught are a bit different. The challenge with wild caught is you're putting in a lot of live food, and with that you've got, obviously you do have to do more water changes because live foods are messier. So maybe it's not really something that I've come across as a major issue.
Okay, cool.
But maybe I've been lucky. Like you said, it's something when you read online, they are noted to be quite finicky and things. But
that's something that comes across on nearly every article that you ever read about them. High nitrates will give them issues and that kind of stuff. So again, lots of plants can help with that as well, drawing nitrates out, as everybody knows, and that sort of stuff. So what about diseases? Have you noticed that they're more prone to any particular diseases, or anything seems to target them a little bit more than other things, or have you found them relatively hardy when it comes to diseases as well?
Again, it's not something I've encountered yet. Touch wood. I've never had to treat them for any diseases, or I've never noticed white spot or anything at all. Again, I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I've never had. It's not that I've not had it. I mean, I've had in Geophagus, the bigger ones. I've had white spot, like nothing on earth. But with the rams, I've been very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
That's good. Okay. Sweet. Yeah, but in my times having them, I don't recall ever having any particular issue with them, and there's nothing that's yelling at me at the top of my head saying that they're prone to anything like, clown loaches are quite prone to white spot, for example, particularly when travelling and that kind of stuff. So there's nothing that's sort of yelling at me that they've been more susceptible to any sort of disease. So yeah.
I think when I've kept them, I've not been introducing lots and lots of fish. Yeah. All my fish, at least from my most recent setups anyway, they've just got added and then left. So I'm not kind of putting in new fish here, there, and running the risk of introducing anything. So maybe that's the key.
Possible. Yeah. So you said earlier that you've spawned them before. So do you want to run us through the process with that? Is there any sort of things that trigger them to spawn a bit better than others? And then what was it like raising the fry, and how did that process go? Because some fry are a bit different to others. So do you want to run us through that process? Yeah,
well, the best way to do it is to have just the male and the female, just a pair in the tank, nothing else.
What sort of size tank? Obviously, a 10-foot tank would be too big for a pair. So
a 60-litre tank would be plenty.
It's a 2 foot by 1 foot sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need a lot of space. A soft substrate like sand, some various stones, maybe a bit of wood. Just a simple setup, nothing too hot. The warmer water is much more. It does help having it warmer. There's not anything in particular that stimulates them, but just like any cichlid or any other fish that you're trying to prep for breeding, a high protein diet for a few weeks, a couple of extra water changes.
Trying to plump up the female to get the egg production going on. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. More water changes, and they'll do it themselves.
Okay.
They just on the substrate, so it's easy to spot. They're not halfway up the glass or on the heater or the filter at the back. It's usually on the substrate or anything that's on top of the substrate. And just keeping an eye on them. Again, it comes down to the parents. Young parents, you'll find I'll eat the young or eat the eggs, or and even as adults, it doesn't take much for them to eat the eggs themselves or eat their young. But usually once they've laid, once it's a couple of days, 2-3 days, once they've hatched, you can kind of look at removing the parents.
Yeah.
So you don't keep them in.
Do you, like I know often with angelfish and discus, for example, if you let the parents spawn, eat the eggs, discard the eggs or the fry or whatever for a couple of times around to get them to learn, is that a process you kind of go through, or do you, as soon as you spot them first time around, do you grab them, or do you just let the parents sort of be for a little bit, and then eventually once they get a bigger clutch and get a bit more confident in what they're doing, is that when you begin to remove things?
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Let them learn what they're doing first.
Yeah. I like seeing the parents swimming with the fry.
Yeah.
So I just love that. That for me, that's what it's all about. So as soon as they're free swimming, really, that's when I tend to keep a close eye on them. And normally I'll remove the male first. And then the next day or the day after, I'll remove the female. But obviously, if they're in a tank with just the parents, you can remove the parents and there's nothing else that's going to eat them. But I mean, sometimes it's not unheard of that you can keep the parents in for quite a while. But then if they start spawning again, you've then got a problem where they'll chase the fry off, or they could eat the fry, and so it's just catching them at the right time. You'll know that as a fish keeper yourself.
Yep. So as far as raising the fry goes, have you found anything works particularly better, or are you on high alert for doing the water changes or anything like that, or do they raise quite easily? Is there often mortality rates with them, or how do the fry kind of come through?
I'd say they're quite, as far as there's harder fry to raise out there, by all means, definitely. When they first hatch and they're free swimming for the first maybe week, they'll eat biofilm and they'll eat the basic stuff that's in about them. But when they're that ready for eating actual food, just powdered up flake.
Yep.
I've never been big on buying fry food and all that kind of stuff. So for the first few weeks, I would use that just a little bit. What I like to do rather than let it all just float down and flow about is I'll put it in water, like in a cup, and use a turkey baster, and you can target feed where they are, and that way you're keeping it all together. And water changes, I do continue to do water changes, but I'll, instead of doing like maybe 20%, I'll just come down to like 10% just for the sake of taking the edge off it. Aye.
Yeah, cool. So it doesn't sound like the fry is particularly hard to get going once they're going or anything like that. So yeah, cool. All right. And kind of last but not least, what's the quality like over in Scotland for your rams? You've spoken about you can get wild caught ones quite regularly. You know, it's obviously quite common to get wild caught as well as tank raised. Are they? Obviously, the wild caught's going to be true to form. Are the tank raised ones pretty high quality, true to form? You're getting the blue, you're getting the sparkles, and for me, seeing a real vibrant ram with that really black dorsal fin, that's quite cool. I really like that look at them, much like the photo, the picture in the background. Are they quite true to form like that?
Yeah, I think wild ones. Well, to give you an example, this is a picture. This is a wild one. Yeah. You've got everything like you see in that picture. You can get in store-bought ones as well. Obviously, you will find some places that like during the lockdown, our local fish shops stayed open because it was essential. Fish keeping is essential, of course. Yeah, exactly. So we did have towards the end of it, obviously the fish farms, and they were all trying to keep up with the demand. So they were sending fish out smaller. Instead of fish just, not being able to get them, you were just getting them, but you were getting them younger and younger and younger. And that took a while to come back to where you were getting the proper sized ones again. But generally, if you could probably put them side by side and you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. Yeah, I mean, knowing your shop and knowing like you've got some fish shops aren't the best at keeping their fish in their shop, but I'm lucky. The local fish shop I've got is fantastic, and they really care for the fish, and they won't sell anything unless it's 100%. So, yeah, when I was collecting rams for this setup, I went to 2 different places. One of them, they sold me some, and then I topped up with another one from a different shop, and from both suppliers. They were brilliant.
Just curious, how much do you pay for your rams over there?
£8.75.
Pounds. So it's about 3 times. Is it 3 times or 2 times what we pay over here?
I'm
not far off about what the prices are roughly here. I think they're about between $20 and $30, depending on where you're going to. So it's kind of in the same kind of ballpark as far as prices go over there to what they are over here. So that's interesting to know. 2 times more. So 8 times $16, $17 for here, and you're in the 20 to 30. So it's a little bit more, but not too much more, considering our fish have got to come in from the other side of the world into us. So that's not too bad altogether.
Yeah.
Cool. That's pretty much all I've got as far as my questions go. If there's anybody watching that wants to know any more, feel free to jump in with any questions you've got, and we'll be able to answer them while we're here. Nick's asked where I got these t-shirts from. So I bought these from Redbubble, which is an Australian website. I believe my understanding it's a big sort of shop that people that create and design clothing and sort of handmade stuff and printed stuff go in to sell their stuff. I just searched for aquarium t-shirts or something along those lines, and I got a few different designs that I liked. I couldn't find anything locally in New Zealand. Otherwise, I would have bought them all from New Zealand. Unfortunately, I had to go to Australia to get them. So You check out Redbubble. There's heaps of different designs of different aquarium based shirts and hats and beanies and all sorts of jerseys and that kind of stuff. So you check them out if you're looking for some pretty cool fish swag, yo. So I don't know if there is going to be any more questions, but like I said, that's all I've got. Anything else you want to add to this, John?
One thing that's worth noting, like, although they're cichlids, they're not regarded as an aggressive cichlid, like the bigger, cousins. That's one of the things I like most about them. They're very placid. They do show some aggression, but it's actually it's quite sad, really. They kind of talk to each other. It's funny.
Yeah, they're not going to rip the face off another fish.
No.
Yeah,
no,
so I have to agree with you that again, they're cichlids. They're not aggressive by any stretch of the imagination. Kind of like people get worried of gold barbs because they're part of the barb family, but they're same with cherry barbs, but they're the opposite. You can kind of remove the word barb out of the conversation because they're not in that kind of elk, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
You should know this before. So, hey, you can always buy more, Jackie. Never too late to get some more rams. Okay, well then I think that'll probably conclude what we've done today. So again, John, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, you're good.
I hope everybody has enjoyed this conversation and taken some notes and taken some little bits and pieces. And if you haven't kept rams before, it's definitely worthwhile. I think they're really beautiful, cool little fish, and they are very, very popular. They're a good addition to most community tanks, and they're pretty easygoing. As long as you keep the water stable and in good condition, then they'll look after you. So, definitely worthwhile if you haven't had them before.
Yeah, and just before we go, later on today, I'm going to share the blog. I'll get a blog sent over to Cam, and Cam will get it up on the website for everybody. I'll just kind of go over what we spoke about and add in some other things that I've forgotten about, no doubt. So if you're interested in keeping rams, it'll be a good point of reference for you.
Absolutely.
So, look out for that.
Got some stuff coming out for rams as well. So, all right, guys, we'll leave it at that. It's now after 10 o'clock, and the shop was meant to be open 10 minutes ago. So, happy days. All right, everybody, have a good one. Happy fish keeping. Catch you later. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys. Bye.
Thank you very much. Catch you later.